Say, what do they got Joe Biden imbibing? What's Joe Biden? What do they got Joe Biden imbibing? That he's able to give speeches and stay up past 5 p.m. and climb 5 stairs in 80 seconds flat at age 80,005? Modafinil is probably the betting man's choice. It's a minimally mind-altering, non-euphoric stimulant. It's going to hit you harder than a cup of coffee, but it's not going to hit you to death like amphetamine, which is what everyone seems to think he's on. I say think again. Now, you use amphetamine to jumpstart an 80,005-year-old brain, that's going to be the last thought he ever has. Anyway, that's what I would use if I was his handler. Modafinil, da-da-da-da. But I tell you, I used modafinil for a month when I was in college, and if it couldn't help me to hand in a term paper on time, I don't know how it would help old Joe handle the free world. So I'd say maybe a combo of modafinil and dextroamphetamine. I tried that for a month. That was the last month that I was in an accelerated physical therapy program that my college should have never placed me in. That was my downfall, probably. It wasn't even that I wasn't turning in term papers. It was just that I didn't want to hand in 80,005 term papers a month about the muscles next to the tibia. My teacher was like, "Are you sure? You're my best student of all time." And I was like, "Are you sure you're not just worried you're not going to have anyone to sell you dextroamphetamine once I drop out?" Once I dropped out, my daddy didn't speak to me for 5 years. For 5 years, I thought he was mad about how I dropped out. Then the other day, I realized my daddy was old as old Joe Biden. He's probably been having 5 strokes a day since the day that shit happened. That's why I'm trying to figure out what they got Joe Biden imbibing that's got him talking once every 5 months on television. I don't need more than that. I'm just trying to get my daddy talking once before his old ass goes to pasture, which could be at any minute. Which is why right this minute, I gotta figure out what they figured out for old Joe. Luckily, I got a background in both physical therapy and drug dealing, so I guess you'd say my guesses are more educated than most. Most of the people who answered my Reddit post trying to figure out what they got old Joe Biden imbibing seem to think that it's some mixture of pseudoephedrine and intravenous cocaine. On account of that's what they had Hitler on. But most of the people who answered my Reddit post only answered because they want to say that they think old Joe Biden's like Hitler. That's not me. At least it's not for me to say. I don't go for politics or saying who is and who isn't like Hitler. For all I know, old Joe Biden is the nicest, oldest presidential candidate there ever was, who's perhaps not an ideal match for his job when the lights come on. But that's not my concern. My concern as a citizen of the world's favorite nation is whether or not when the lights come on, does he notice? You know, or is it like 1 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi? Hey, what's everybody doing here? You know, I'm a betting man, and I bet that's what it's like. That's what's got me wondering what they've got his old ass imbibing. Because I got to get my daddy on that. Because I turn the lights on, and I turn the lights off, and he don't move an inch from his TV chair. And he don't even have a TV anymore. I sold it so I could get pseudoephedrine. He didn't say shit. And I really miss talking to his old ass. I don't have anyone to talk to except the kids who work at my restaurant, and who wants to talk to them? All they talk about is politics, which is crazy because they're younger than 9/11. Can you believe that? They don't remember 9/11. Isn't that sad? I guess that's actually super happy. I guess that's just how time works. I bet my daddy looks at me and is like, "Holy shit, can you believe this kid doesn't remember Hitler?" I wish I could ask him about it. I wish I could ask him about a lot of things. I mean, fuck, Daddy's the same age as Joe Biden. Motherfucker was 5 years old for Hitler. That's probably why I used to talk about politics so much. Daddy, not Joe Biden. Somehow Joe Biden's still talking about politics, but Daddy used to talk about politics all the time on account of he was worried that anyone they elected president was going to be just like Hitler. Daddy didn't care what political party they was part of. Daddy just cared that they was trying to take over the country, because taking over the country is a scary notion to a man that can remember Hitler. Hitler was scary. Motherfucker was on pseudoephedrine and intravenous cocaine and meth. Look it up. He had 3/4 of the Third Reich, 5 sheets to the wind on crystal meth. They called it pilotensols. Pilot salt. A lot of people think that's what made the Nazis so mean. I doubt it. All it ever made me want to do is drop out of college and talk to my daddy about politics. Back in the day, we used to talk about politics all day. I'd get home from school, he'd be there at his TV chair, I'd turn the radio to NPR, and then for shits and giggles, I'd grab my iPad and play Alex Jones from YouTube. We'd listen to them all at once, and talk over them the whole time, making up our own opinions. At least Dad made up his own opinions. It's not for me to make political opinions. My daddy always used to say that back when he was saying things. He used to say, "Who wants to talk politics with you? You don't even remember Hitler." Then we'd stop talking and jam out on our guitars. Now that I'm remembering it, I used to like jamming out even more than I liked talking with my daddy. I wonder if Daddy even remembers we used to do that. That's the crazy thing about having taken all those physical therapy classes. I know all the muscles that are turning off in his old-ass body. I can name all the synapses that aren't firing. Just the other day, when I went to sell his TV, I dropped it on his leg first, then tore all the muscles around his tibia. It was an accident. But I pinched his peroneus longus and ripped up the paper skin that protected his tibialis anterior. All of a sudden, it was his tibialis exterior, bleeding all down his leg and onto the parquet floor. Daddy's so old, he's got a parquet floor. You remember those? Those old wooden parquet and herringbone floors with the crazy geometric patterns that you used to see in the late 60s, early 70s? Well, Daddy's bones was splintered across the herringbone, and his blood was all on the ground, further complicating those complicated geometric patterns. And the whole scene looked like a scene out of a horror movie from the late 60s, early 70s. Lucky it didn't scare me. I used to be the best student of all time in physical therapy college. I reset his bones and took down his pleated curtains and used them to make a tourniquet. And when I did that, the light shone through and cut through his gray apartment for the first time since I dropped out of physical therapy college. And while he didn't scream or say a word or nothing at all, I saw that he was still breathing. And after a few Mississippi seconds, he moved his head and even noticed the light. I said, "Mississippi, goddamn!" Then I picked up his television and went to the pawn shop, but unfortunately old Joe at the pawn shop wouldn't give me cash for it on account of I busted it on my daddy's busted leg. But he did let me exchange it for a busted up guitar. And then I got a little floating sauce from the kids at my restaurant. Unfortunately, it didn't help my daddy none, so I doubt that's what they got old Joe Biden imbibing, even if it did help Hitler to run the unfree world. All it made me do was wish I could talk to my daddy. But I did notice it made my old man breathe a little better. In fact, it had him huffing and puffing about 80,005 times per second. So I tuned my busted guitar to the metronome of his busted body and started playing this song that you're listening to right now. That's what I love about jamming out. Music always had a way of letting me and my daddy say things we couldn't say to each other. That's the power of music. At least it's the power of the music they made in the late 60s, early 70s when my daddy and Joe Biden were 35 years old. I wonder what they think of the shit music we got now. Oh, I guess I'll never know. Isn't that sad? I think it is. But I guess that's just how time works. Unless you got whatever Joe Biden's imbibing. God, I wonder what that is.